And the World Bank has predicted that global food prices will continue to surge. And World Bank President Robert Zoellick says that the U.S. should take this into consideration when formulating domestic policies. Annie Fu has more.
World Bank President Robert Zoellick is predicting the continuance of soaring food prices worldwide. In an official visit to Mexico on Wednesday, Zoellick explained that global food prices have surged in recent years, causing hunger, riots, and hoarding in poor countries. And he says the U.S. should consider how rising food prices hurt the world's poor when it sets policies that funnel much of its corn into biofuel production.
The country has to assess the effect of that on the overall sort of humanitarian issues in terms of price of food products.
Last year, the U.S. Congress passed legislation that would require the country's gas supply to include 36 billion gallons of renewable fuels by 2022. At the moment, more than a quarter of the U.S. corn crop is turned into biofuel.
Rough economic forecasts are that while we hope that there will be some supply response that might bring some of the prices down a little bit in 2009, 2010, that in general we believe that price levels through 2015 will remain higher than the price levels of 2004.
Zoellick also adds that forecasts for the coming years are not encouraging. Last week, the World Bank pledged, along with UN agencies, to set up a task force to tackle soaring global food prices. Annie Fu, CCTV.
Well, coming back to China, and the country will keep grain output above 500 million tons in 2008 as the world's largest rice producer and consumer tries to cope with rising global grain prices. The Chinese Ministry of Agriculture said this week that the country produced about 500 million tons of grain in 2007, and that was basically almost the same level with the nation's annual consumption of 510 million tons. The ministry says that China will strive to stabilize full-year grain output and strictly control the development of biofuels to protect the country's grain supplies and arable land banks. It adds that the country has to be on the alert for price rises in imported grain and unusual changes in grain imports and exports. Well, Beijing authorities are pledging on Thursday to crack down on any infringement of intellectual property rights related to the Beijing Olympic Games. The government has set up a hotline, 12312, that people can call to report on IPR infringements. From 2004 to this past September, administrations for industry and commerce at various levels in China had investigated over 1,300 IPR infringement cases related to the Olympics involving almost 17 million yuan. And over to the tourism sector, and a report by the Pacific Asia Travel Association forecasts annual inbound tourist arrivals in China will surpass 163 million people in the next 3 years. While the international authoritative report says that China's tourism industry recorded staggering growth in the past 2 decades. Last year alone saw 132 million overseas tourists visiting the country. The industry is now worth more than $100 billion a year and creates 90 million jobs nationwide. The report also says that while the overall statistics are quite impressive, quote unquote, maximizing the tourism potential is not just about swelling tourism numbers, but it's also about sustainability and even guaranteeing repeat traffic. Well, that was basically it. Quick update for you in the business. We'll be back at 2 p.m. As I mentioned earlier, the PPI, or Producers Price Index, just came out. If you want to know what that is and how the outlook will be for all the other indexes that will be coming out next week, be sure to tune into Biz China at 2 p.m. Beijing time. That's it. Back to you, James.
163 million.
I know, that's like
tourists.
that's like 5 times the population. No, it's like 6 times the population of Malaysia.
Is it?
Twice, yeah, that's
Where did that
22
random
million.
fact
I'm not
come
quite
from?
sure either.
I worry about
I'm
you.
Thai. I know. Let's get back to James.
I know. But we never have time to go around China ourselves. But anyway.
It's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people. Well, thanks very much, John. We will see Jar again at 2 p.m. Beijing time, as she said, right here on NewsHour. We're going to go to one final break, the sports and the world weather, all coming up. Puccini's beloved ballet Madame Butterfly flutters onto the stage at Beijing's National Grand Theatre. And here's at sports, we're promising you Roger Federer outplays Ivo Karlovic to make the quarterfinals of the Rome Masters. All those stories and much more right here after now.
The Great Wall. So much more than just a wall, it's a symbol of a nation and its unity. By safeguarding trade routes such as the Silk Road, it protected the country's economic development and its cultural progress. Join Travelog and discover more about the Great Wall, miracle of human ingenuity. Only on CCTV International.
Welcome back, and let's jump onto the stage. On the heels of Turandot, another Puccini opera has been adapted for the Chinese audience. Madame Butterfly, a collaboration by the National Center for the Performing Arts and the Central Conservatory of Music, has landed at Beijing's National Grand Theatre. This year is the 150th anniversary of Puccini's birth.
Madame Butterfly is based on a story by American writer John Luther, which Puccini later turned into an opera. It takes place a century ago in the city of Nagasaki. Pinkerton, a lieutenant in the U.S. Navy, takes a 15-year-old geisha, Cho-Cho-san, as a bride and then abandons her. The tragedy appears to foreshadow the conflicts that arose when the Japanese culture clashed with the Western cultures during the 19th century. The current Chinese production plays the opera straight. It delivers the classic storybook images with even stronger Oriental treatment. There's a large wooden home with the sliding doors set against the rural hills of Japan. There are flowing silk kimonos, tatami, an endless array of cherry blossoms. Director Gary Burgess, who has directed opera numerous times in different stages, voices his satisfaction with the set designed by Dai Yanyan.
The designer has done a marvelous job, and they're very contemporary. Usually Butterfly has one house and some but this is a bigger house and it moves. So it's sort of magical.
The National Center for Performing Arts has recruited a capable cast. It includes Yao Hong, who gives an effective portrayal as a Cho-Cho-san. Xie Tian sang Pinkerton in a big voice and a shapely Italian style. Lo Chen, CCTV.